free the potential of each person, and build a united democratic South Africa able to take rightful place in the sovereignty state, in the family of nations. May God protect our people. Kosi sigelele Africa, Morena Boleka Sihau. God seen South Africa. God bless South Africa. Who like Africa? Mudzimu from Africa. Hoshe called Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ntate Makatina. Re mo shapele matsoho hape. Thank you so much. We may be seated. I will now invite the chairperson of the National Youth Development Agency, Dr. Sunshine Minenhle Miende, to give a message of support to the youth of South Africa. Are mo shapele matsoho. Our Dr. Sunshine.
Asina mala sisebenzi, asina mala sina lutho, asina mala sisebenzi, male asina mala sina lutho. Ayeye muntu omusha ayeye, ayeye muntu omusha ayeye. Uzoyithola kanjani? Kulonyaka we're doing it differently. We're saying uzoyithola kanjani ungayi esikoleni. Ne? We're going to do it one more time. Uzoyithola kanjani? Ungayi esikoleni. Ayeye muntu omusha ayeye. Down with youth unemployment, down. Down with substance abuse, down. Amandla, awethu. Thank you very much, Program Director, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Deputy President in his absentia, the Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers present, leaders of all youth political formations present today, the President of the ANC Youth League, President Colin Malachi, the leader of DA Youth, Mr. Luvo Vimbani, the National Chair of the IFP Youth Brigade, and all the political parties present today, the board of the NYDA, the Deputy Chairperson and all the board members, the Progressive CEO of the NYDA, Mr. Gupega, the Rain Queen Mochachi, the President of Russia Youth Guard. Mr. President, I must say today that the NYDA has international guests present. We have the President of Russia Youth Guard today, and all our guests from the African continent present today. And most importantly, the young people of the country, I greet you. Imagine being 16 years old and deciding that your future was worth dying for. Imagine leaving home carrying nothing more than a school bag, a handwritten placard, and the unshakable spirit and belief that your voice mattered. That is what the generation of 1976 did. They were not waiting to become leaders, they were already leading. They understood that history does not wait for permission, and neither should those called to change it. Today, as we commemorate 50 years of the 1976 Soweto uprising, we honor not only the courage displayed in the streets of Soweto, but the spirit of resistance that echoed across the country. We remember the young people of Mamelodi, the young people of Alexandra, the young people of Kagiso. We remember those who, a decade later, in 1986, the students at the University of the North, who studied under the barrel of a gun, and all young people across the country who paid the ultimate price in pursuit of justice, equality, and human dignity. Today, 50 years later, we gather not only to honor their courage, but to ask ourselves, a more difficult question. Have we been equally courageous in confronting the barriers of us that we're facing as a generation? Because remembrance without responsibility becomes only a sentiment. History without action becomes nothing. And freedom without opportunity remains incomplete. The theme of this year's commemoration says, "Reset at 50, the future calls." Reminds us that freedom lives in every generation. Yet every generation must define for itself what freedom means. As Frantz Fanon says, every generation out of relative obscurity must discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. And as a generation, we dare not betray our mission. For the youth of 1976, freedom meant dismantling apartheid and demanding the right to learn. For the youth of 2026, freedom means economic freedom in our lifetime. The youth of 1976 fought for the right to enter the classroom. The youth of 2026 are fighting for the right to leave the lecture room and enter the economy. That is the unfinished business of our democracy. For many young South Africans today, they wake up every day, Mr. President, to stand in the streets, to stand in the corners, because they don't know what they're going to do with their lives. Some have even lost hope because they've become a laughingstock in their communities. The neighbors are gossiping about us, saying that we have gone to university, but we have nothing to show for it. The struggle is no longer about access to education itself, it is access to opportunity after education. It is graduating with a distinction and still wait for a first interview. It is carrying a business idea but lacking access to capital. It is having talent but no networks. It is having hope but no opportunity. And this has resulted to a large number of us as young people drinking our talents away. Every graduation ceremony in South Africa, with its sacrifices of parents and grandparents, who have sold their livestock, borrowed money, skipped meals, and worked overtime so that their children could stand on that stage. Our responsibility today is to ensure that graduation is followed by an opportunity, rather than disappointment. Behind every unemployment statistics is a human story. One thing about being unemployed, Mr. President, it strips away your dignity. It creates a lot of dependency. As young people, we can't even buy roll-on or buy any toiletries. We have to ask, and that takes away our dignity and our dependency. And that is why we're calling today for decisive action in addressing issues of youth unemployment. We cannot continue, Mr. President, to be dependent. These days, young men have said, I must say this to you, Mr. President, they can't even be in relationships anymore with their peers because they can't even afford to take their girlfriends out because they're unemployed, Mr. President. Further to that, Mr. President, even in our families during December, we can't even air our views because we're unemployed. We're not respected, Mr. President, because we're unemployed. They don't take us seriously. Even when those small yogurts of young kids are missing, the first suspect is us because we're regarded as omahlalela. That is why we have continuously said, Mr. President, you must declare youth unemployment as a pandemic and as a disaster. As it directly and indirectly affects our coexistence as young people. Every day, it is a graduate who's refreshing an inbox that never changes. It is the entrepreneur whose dream cannot move beyond paper because funding never came. It is a young woman and young man submitting their proposals only for them to be rejected without an explanation. And oftentimes, as young people, we're faced with arrogance from officials in government offices. They sit there in their big aircons and their chairs that are revolving, and they don't care about us, Mr. President. Honorable President, As government, we must also remove barriers that we've created ourselves. A qualification should never become a waiting room for unemployment. Young graduates should not repeatedly certify documents that government already has. Why is it that I have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that I have a matric? Why is basic education through different platforms working together with DHET, Home Affairs and Department of Public Service and Administration, together with prospective employers, not ensuring that there's a system that is coordinated? If you're going to punch in my ID, it must show that I have a matric, it must show that I have a degree, it must show every other thing. As young people, we're tired of certifying our documents every other day without responses. An intentional, integrated government approach is what will result in a more tangible pathways for young people. And us as the NYDA, we're ready to lead that call as mandated by the Act to coordinate youth development throughout the country. One of the challenges facing us as young people today is the cost of data, Mr. President. 1 gigabyte in South Africa, Mr. President, is very expensive. We can't be compelled to choose between buying bread and buying data. We therefore say, Mr. President, we can't even attend online interviews. We can't even take short courses online because asinayo data to do that particular thing. Young people cannot build digital businesses, complete online courses, and even compete on a global marketplace because of the cost of participation in those platforms. Affordable data is therefore no longer a telecommunications issue alone. It is an education issue, an employment issue, an entrepreneurship issue, and ultimately a justice for us as young people. Young people cannot be forced to choose between buying bread or buying data. We can't be compelled in the 370 that we receive from government that we must choose whether do we buy data or we do other things. Mr. President, in the same way that the previous generation demanded access to classroom, this generation is demanding affordable access to the digital highways that now connect opportunity to aspiration. Program Director, as the NYDA, we are the current and the future leaders of the country. We're not folding hands and complaining only. We've embarked on different programs, Mr. President, to capacitate and empower young people. One of the things that young people have said is that this year we don't want speeches, they want action. That is why today, Mr. President, you are seeing this exhibition in front of you. Since morning, young people have been getting opportunities and services from different government entities and private sector to capacitate themselves. We said this year's commemoration is going to be different because we don't want speeches anymore. What we want is action. And on top of that, Mr. President, we're tired as young people. But as the NYDA, as we see that we're the leaders of young people in the country and also the future leaders of the country, we've embarked on a fruitful partnership. This morning, 10,000 young people that are gathered today received a SIM card from one of our partners called Yomo. Can I see those that received their SIM cards? Yes, you see, they're carrying their SIM cards, Mr. President. These SIM cards that they've received from the NYDA, they're going to apply for jobs, they're going to apply for funding opportunities, any business opportunities for free. The SIM card doesn't need young people to apply. Young people don't need data in order to apply for jobs. This is us as the NYDA being intentional in capacitating and empowering young people. On top of that, the SIM card has 10 Rand a time where you're going to be able to call your friends. This is part of our PYEI program that we are currently implementing. Today, as part of this commemoration, the NYDA has also played a critical role ever since the appointment by the President himself on the 1st of August. We've empowered and capacitated 1,300 young people with their businesses to the value of 28 million. These are young people from rural areas, as when we got into office, we're intentional to say that we're going to support the marginalized groups. Those are young people from rural areas, urban areas, as well as in informal settlements. That's what we have done since our appointment. But before we handed over this money to these young people, we capacitated them through our business management training, of which is 5 days, where they got skills on how to run a business. We don't want to say that we've been funded and we're not been able to run our businesses over time. Also, through our partnership on the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative, we've launched 100,000 paid opportunities. We have 100,000 young people that are going to be employed through the NYDA, through the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative. We've started the recruitment. We think that by the 1st of July, 100,000 young people would have been employed. I thought that you guys were going to care for 100,000 young people. Across government and its partners, we're witnessing the emergence of a coordinated ecosystem that is placing young people at the center of South Africa's development agenda. But we must also thank the government that over time, government through NSFAS has produced many graduates. We have many young people that are first graduates in their families through NSFAS and other different government initiatives. So we must thank you, Mr. President, for that. However, the NYDA as well, during the month of July, we're going to capacitate 600,000 young people with digital skills through a project that is called I Am the Code. We must thank the Minister, Sindisiwe Chikunga, on this particular initiative, because the NYDA was not going to ensure that we get this partnership if it wasn't for her wisdom and her guidance. These are 600,000 young people that are going to be capacitated on robotics, on fintech, agri-tech, and digital entrepreneurship. We refuse to prepare young people only for the economy we inherited. We're preparing them to lead the economy that is emerging as well. Our board has deliberately prioritized rural communities, townships, and urban areas. We believe that geography should never determine your destiny. Our commitment to inclusion has also moved beyond words into institutional action. One must also thank you, Mr. President, in your appointment, in your wisdom, that you appointed a person with disability, Mr. Sibusiso Makhathini, who was present here today. That means that as the NYDA, inclusivity and ensuring that young persons with disability are not left behind, including LGBTQIA+, as we have a board member that is representing that. The NYDA board has also launched what we call Panda Thursday. This is an opportunity where we're saying, Mr. President, every Thursday in South Africa must be dedicated towards us as young people. This is where we're saying all government departments on every Thursday, they must leave their offices, leave their aircons, and go to where we are as young people. They must bring all the jobs that are available. They must bring all services that relate to us as young people. Because over and above that, Mr. President, we don't even have money to take taxis to go to their luxury offices. So therefore, we're saying all government offices on every Thursday, we're calling it Panda Thursday. We're dedicating it to us as young people up until we resolve the issues of unemployment and we resolve all issues affecting us as young people. But Program Director, we must also say, government cannot do this alone. The fight against youth unemployment cannot remain the responsibility of public sector alone. The private sector owes this generation more than commentary. It owes this generation investment, sustainable jobs, procurement opportunities, and mentorship. We're tired of private sector giving us soccer jerseys and giving us all those small things. What we want is sustainable jobs. Private sector must be intentional to share that this is what they are doing for us as young people. As I sit down, Mr. President, young people have sent me to give you 4 demands that we have. The first demand, Mr. President, we hereby demand as young people, Mr. President, that as discussions around early retirement and succession planning continue, we demand that all funded vacant posts, both in government and in its entities, be advertised by Mandela Day. We must honor Tata Mandela, whose legacy was anchored around education being a weapon which can be used to change the world, and further believed in young people through advertising this post. And when these posts are being advertised, Mr. President, we don't want entry-level posts. We want deputy directors going up. Because you cannot tell us that we have gone to university and we can't be able to comprehend what is it that is needed. We're saying that we've gone to university, we have honors, we have master's degrees, we have PhDs, so we demand those jobs for unemployed graduates in South Africa. Over and above that, Mr. President, young people say that they're tired of internships. We want sustainable jobs, we don't want gig jobs anymore. And we're saying that we want this by the 1st of September, Mr. President. In preparation for the 1st of September, the NYDA is going to roll out a massive workshop to train young people on how to write their CVs and how to conduct themselves in an interview. Thereafter, we don't want stories on why we're not going to be employed. What we want is employment. We further demand, Mr. President, that SACA makes available our qualification certificates. I'm not going to sit down without telling the President about this one. Every time, Mr. President, when we want employment, government departments and its entities demands our certificates. And you know, Mr. President, that majority of our graduates are universities. We don't have our certificates because we're owing. We have debt in universities. On that regard, we are saying that because government departments and entities refuse to take our letters of confirmation that I have a qualification, therefore, SACA must make available our certificates to our prospective employers. Then when they've employed us, we're going to pay back the money, and then we're going to get our certificates. It's simple as that, Mr. President. Thirdly, Mr. President, we hereby demand that opportunities that relate to young people, be it jobs, bursaries, and funding, be provided at a zero-rated approach. We can't be required to buy data with the 370 that we have. The fourth demand, Mr. President, is that we hereby demand that all government entities, as well as private sector, intensify efforts of ensuring that procurement opportunities are clearly set aside for us as young people. Mr. President, we don't want the breadcrumbs. We want the actual bread this time around. And young people have also sent me to tell you that they really trust you, Mr. President, to deliver on the above-mentioned demands. The first part of this regard is to demand that all government fleet vehicles be serviced by young people that the NYDA has trained on the automotive industry. The NYDA has trained young people in the automotive industry. Therefore, we say that it's incorrect for government to take out tenders to service their vehicles. The vehicles must be serviced by the young people that we have trained. The last demand, Mr. President, as we would have pronounced during SONA on skills revolution in the country. As the NYDA, we support that call and we request a skills audit on what skills we are going to need in the future. Over the years, we have been told to go and study social work, and today we're sitting with unemployed social workers. No one is willing to employ them. But young people at some point were promised a false hope that they must go study social work. Today, we're sitting at home with those social work degrees. What is the plan? So before we embark on any skills revolution, we're demanding a skills audit as a country so that we go and study what the future requires of us. History will not ask whether we commemorated June 16. It will ask whether we understood what June 16 demanded for us. It will ask whether the graduate found the work and whether the entrepreneur found the capital. 50 years ago, young people believed their future was worth dying for. Let ours be the generation that proves the future and ours is worth living for, as economic freedom in our lifetime is what we're striving for. I thank you.
We are the future.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the NYDA. We note the demands of young people. The ministers are here. The deputy ministers are here. MECs are here. Councillors and everyone. You must help the president to respond to the demands of young people. I want to take this opportunity to further acknowledge the South African Youth Council, also acknowledge religious leaders. I also want to take this opportunity to greet all of you and say, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Absheni, good day. I want to teach you two slogans. The first one is the one that the deputy minister was attempting. When we were growing up, we used to say, we are the future, no one can stop us. So I want all young people in the house, when I say we are the future, you must say, no one can stop us. We are the future. We are the future. No one can stop us. No one can stop us. The second slogan I want to teach you, it's a theme that we are running in Gauteng, which is called, it takes a village to raise a child. So I want all of us to repeat after me. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child. Thank you very much. Viva the youth of South Africa, viva! Long live the youth of South Africa, long live! Thank you very much. My name is Lebogang Maile. I'm running the program with the Deputy Minister. I'm the MEC for Education, Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation in Gauteng. At this point, I would like to take this opportunity to ask the Minister in the Presidency, who's responsible for women, youth, and persons with disabilities, Mme Cindy Chikunga, to come and give remarks, but to also hand over the torch of freedom from generation to generation. Honorable Minister.
Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa. Osiyaya wesizwe Lusaka. Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa. Osiyaya wesizwe Lusaka. Osiyaya wesizwe Lusaka. Long live the spirit of 1976 uprising, long live. Long live the spirit of youth of South Africa, long live. Amandla. Excellency, the President of the Republic, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa, Honorable Minister Gayton Mackenzie, Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Refilwe Mtsweni Tsipane, and our guest speakers from other states, ministers, deputy ministers, Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Honorable Steve Litsike, the Premier of Gauteng, Acting Premier of Gauteng, Ms. Faith Mazibuko, MECs, MPs, Councillors, Mayor of Johannesburg, Councillor Dada Morero, members of Diplomatic Corps, Chairperson of the NYDA Board, Dr. Sunshine Miende, and board members of the NYDA, leaders of youth formations and organizations, our religious leadership and traditional leadership, fellow South Africans. But in a more special way, I want to greet our young person. Eita, young person, eita. Eita, young persons, eita. Program Director, today is not an ordinary National Youth Day. And because this is not an ordinary National Youth Day, the ministerial segment will not take place in the form of an ordinary address. In the spirit of Reset at 50, I would like this time to be allocated to this segment to be used not only for words, but for memory, representation, and intergenerational commitment. We will pass a torch from one generation to another, carrying the memory of struggle, the gains of freedom, and the responsibility of the future. The torch reminds us that freedom is never held by one generation alone. The struggle, it is struggled for, it is received, it is protected, it is renewed, and it is passed on. We gather on this golden jubilee of the 1976 Youth Uprising under the theme Reset at 50, the future calls. This theme is not a slogan. It is a call to remember truthfully, because the story of 1976 must be told in its truthfulness. It must be told in fullness, in the pain, the courage, the resilience, and the sacrifice. It is a call to engage the present, because the courage of 1976 must speak directly to the challenges, opportunities, and responsibilities facing young people today. It is a call to shift the narrative, because young people are not a problem to be managed. Young people are solutions, they are innovators, they are organizers, and they are co-creators of the future. It is a call to empower this generation, not only by telling them the stories of those who came before, but by transferring leadership, opening pathways, and building intergenerational continuity. And it is a call to transform the future by ensuring that our programs advance economic inclusion for all young people, especially young women, young persons with disabilities, rural youth, township youth, and those who are often left behind. This is why Reset at 50 must also be understood in the language of the digital era. When a system slows down, when a system freezes, or no longer responds to the demands placed on it, we press the reset button. We do not press reset to erase what matters. We press reset to restore function, update the system, and allow it to perform at the level required. That is what this moment demands of us as a country. We are resetting because the courage of 1976 now requires us to update the systems for 2026 so that young people can participate fully in the economy shaped by technology, data, climate change, innovation, food security, creativity, services, logistics, critical minerals, and new forms of enterprise. Across the world, revolutions have taught us one truth: when young people rise, history begins to move. South Africa knows this very well, and therefore I now invite the generations to receive the torch.
Thank you, Minister Chikunga, who is the champion of this year's year-long commemorations of the June 16th uprising. Everybody needs to understand that for DAY as the foundation, this is a very bittersweet day for us. Today was the day that really changed the trajectory of things. We woke up on this day 50 years ago as young children, actually. People call us the youth, but we were barely, some of us was 10, some of us was even under 15 years old. And we returned as adults. Some of us didn't return. So today, we recognize those that didn't return on that faithful day. But as we gather today, we do more than commemorate this historic moment. I think our history has taught us that June 16th does not just belong to us who marched, who died, who were maimed, who were detained, and who were exiled. And some of us still do suffer from the scars that nobody has even apologized for. And today really is all about that for us. This torch that our champion for the 50th anniversary, Minister Chikunga, is going to light for us symbolizes much more than a flame. We, the youth of 76, understand that age does never determine leadership, vision does. Commitment does, action does, and that is what we did in the face of a very, very brutal apartheid, state-owned, violent machinery. And to those who continue to bear witness to the future generations, may you know the truth. Soweto was the epicenter where it all started. And it spiraled into the then 4 provinces in South Africa, including the homelands. So as we honor today, it's not only about those that are known, it is also the unknown that you rarely hear. This day goes for them. So 50 years later, that is what we need to understand, is that the youth will light the flame of 76. Today we honor that flame. Today we entrust the flame to the hands of the 1996 generation. May this flame continue to light the path of the youth to the next 50 years and beyond. Thank you.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Honorable Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, distinguished guests and delegates, our young people. I am representing the generation of 1976. We are going to light this torch on behalf of the generation of 1996. This torch carries the mammoth responsibility of ushering South Africa into a democratic constitutional dispensation. On the 8th of May 1996, the Constitutional Assembly, chaired by the then chairperson, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, adopted the final text of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. This was not a constitution handed down by the rulers to subjects. It was a constitution shaped through struggle, negotiation, public participation, and the will of the people. It recognized the injustice of our past and committed us to national healing and redress. It became the supreme law of the Republic, protecting the dignity, equality, and freedom of every person. When President Nelson Mandela signed the Constitution into law in Sharpeville on the 10th of December 1996, 36 years after the massacre of the peaceful protesters of the 21st of March 1960, he located our democracy in the memory of those who had suffered and sacrificed for our freedom. Today, we pass this torch to the youth of 2026 because the constitutional promises must move from text into lived experiences, especially for the young people of our country. I now invite the generation of 2026 to come and also be part of lighting the torch. I thank you.
Thank you very much to the generation of 1976 and the generation of 1996. Greetings to the President, ministers and mayors. I know, President, we've made a promise that we'll submit our CVs to you today. But the chair of the NYDA has represented us very well by producing SIM cards that will be able to be used for the submissions of those CVs. Now, I was saying, President, take those CVs very serious. They're a demonstration that unemployment is a real disaster in 2026. Comrade President, we receive this torch on behalf of the youth of 2026. We stand here as beneficiaries of the milestones of freedom, but not as passive recipients of the history. Comrade President, young people are spoken about as a crisis. We are spoken through the language of unemployment, exclusion, poverty, and vulnerability. These realities are serious, but they are full of stories. We, the youth of 2026, are not the problem. We are the solution. By 2050, 1 in every 3 young people in the world will be African. That means the future of the world will be shaped in a small, smart part of the African way. The talent and the energy of the youth is here in Africa. What I can tell you is that, in the meantime, we are not waiting for the future economies. Some of us are already in them. Young people are already learning and creating and building intelligence equipment, data sciences, robots, and renewable energies. agri-tax, climate change systems, and advanced manufacturing systems and digital media, enterprise development. We are already designing the coding and the farming and the manufacturing and the trading innovations, the researching and the building of enterprises, and the solving of problems of our communities. Our task now is to ensure that many young people can enter these spaces and shape them so that we lead. Let us be clear. We are not asking for anyone's permission. We are the future and will shape it now. We are saying remove all red tapes, open pathways, match all systems, and make sure that the youth are included in their own economic activities of their own country. As we make and celebrate 50 years of 1976, we must also ask what South Africa must do in the next 1976, which is 50 years from now. We receive this torch not as spectators of history, but as builders of the next 50 years. Minister, we, the youth of today, we build, we organize, and we create. We receive this torch because we know that the future belongs to us. The torch here is a reflection that the old must hand over the baton to the generation of 2026. We are the future. No one can stop us. We are the future.
No one can stop us.
No one can stop us.
We are the future.
Wetsalang. Wiralang. Thank you very much.
Program directors, this torch is in recognition of the generations that have carried the struggle for freedom, dignity, and justice to this point. This torch has moved across some of the milestones of our freedom. It reminds us that these moments are not separate. They are connected by struggle, sacrifice, memory, and responsibility. The President has received the torch of freedom from generation to generation on behalf of South Africans. The President has handed over the torch to Mr. Sbusiso Makhathini, a young person with disabilities and a member of the NYDA board. This is equality and inclusion, which must be observed and practiced in our lived realities. Throughout these milestones of freedom, the media has also carried a profound responsibility. The story of 1976 did not travel by memory alone. It traveled through the courage of journalists, photographers, editors, and media workers who helped South Africa and the world see what apartheid wanted to hide. We remember Sam Zima, whose photograph of Hector Peterson being carried by Mbuyisa Makubo with Antoinette Sithole running beside them became one of the defining images of apartheid brutality. We remember Sophie Tema, who reported on the Students' March, Thomas Khoza, whose work helped carry the story beyond Soweto, and Dr. Peter Makubane, whose courageous documentation of apartheid violence preserved the visual memory of our struggle. Today, the responsibility continues through journalists, photographers, videographers, documentary makers, broadcasters, and digital storytellers who document our democracy in real time. And they must continue doing it during this Jubilee year, which we are celebrating. In every generation, there are journalists, there are media persons. The youth of 1976 were not simply regurgitating what they were told. They had questioning mind. Today, in a digitizing world, young people must carry the same questioning mind. They must question misinformation. They must question the message that says they have no reason to participate in the civic duty of their country. They must question despair, exclusion, and indifference. That is the kind of patriotism this moment calls. Active citizenship, informed participation, and commitment to help South Africa live up to the democratic promise. Program Director, the torch has been received. The message has been carried. The responsibility now belongs to all of us. Amandla! Long live the spirit of 1976 youth uprising. Long live. Long live the spirit of youth of South Africa. Long live. Amandla.
We are the future. We are the future. Nisasekhona. We are the future. No one can stop us. Uzoyithola kanjani? Uzoyithola kanjani? Are you ready for Benzo? Are you ready for Benzo? Are you ready for Buhle? Are you ready for Solar 7? Thank you. Now, Kitobita, Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Ntate Gayton Mackenzie. I had the remarks high, and then afete amuhele president or president ate are address ne. Now ke kopa batho kaofela ba ba ko ntle ba kene ka mohara tente so that huskabali movement o mongata president address ene re thule ne re mamele molaetsa wa ka jeku ne. Are you ready for Benzo? Are you ready for Buhle? Are you ready for Solar 7? Uzoyithola kanjani? Uzoyithola kanjani? Minister Mackenzie.
The President Ramaphosa, when the President comes to speak, we want every young person here to listen very carefully. If somebody next to you wants to talk to you, you must tell them to wait, because you cannot miss what the President is going to say. But before we bring up the president, there's an issue that needs to be addressed. And I want to say to the ambassadors, I am so happy that you've come. South Africa is dealing with a very serious allegation that we are a xenophobic country. So I want you to go back today after what I'm going to say. When you hear the term Abahambe, I was the one that popularized that term. I was standing with my people fighting against illegal immigration. We went into Parliament. President Ramaphosa appointed me in his cabinet, and I got to understand how government works. The president listens to many views amongst the cabinet ministers. We debate and we'll come to a conclusion. Now, this president did not start the problem of illegal immigration. He found illegal immigration, it has been with us. But for me, as one of the people that is the loudest about it, this president is the first one that has listened to our cry that we don't want people that are undocumented. We have nothing against foreigners, but they must be documented. We don't hate foreigners. We don't want people here. So to President Ramaphosa, many people are claiming now the changes that government is doing is because last week they started to march. Government don't operate like that. The issue has been on the table of the president. We hear law enforcement must handle this matter. To the young people, don't let them use you. Don't let them tell you on the 30th you must remove illegal foreigners. You will go to jail and they will not bail you out. They will be nowhere. The cops are the only people that must remove illegal foreigners. Don't use our children for your political agendas. Illegal foreigners must go, but not violently. We are not a violent country. And you must never move young people to do crime because you don't know jail. I'm speaking as a person that spent my whole youth in jail. I'm not going to sit in South Africa and hear young people are being given instructions on the 30th to hurt illegal foreigners. That one, it shall never happen for as long as I'm alive. We've got a government, there's a law enforcement. If you want to remove illegal foreigners, do it by yourself. Bring your own children so that the cops will deal with you. Our matter is on the table. So I want to be clear. The government is removing illegal foreigners. The government has listened to us. Let us allow the government to do their job. You don't need even to vote for me if you want. I don't agree that we should use violence. We are not a violent people. All we are asking, ambassadors, is for all of us to hold up the mirror. Our people need jobs. Our people are suffering because they don't have jobs. So I'm asking the ambassadors to take the message back that we are not against foreigners. They are our brothers, they are our sisters, but illegal foreigners in this country, we have laws like you have laws. I'm a minister, but when I go to another country, I must produce my passport. So we demand the same in South Africa. We demand the same in South Africa. We've got laws that should be respected. And at this moment, I would like before I call the president up, to tell you a small thing about the president. I used to call the president Consultative Cyril, because he would consult with everyone. He would take decisions. I'm like, when I was in opposition, what is he doing? I'll show you two decisions he took. One, when he said he's going to start an electricity minister, we all complained. Today, it's 1 year without load sharing because of that decision that he took. Number two, all of us here, including myself, I don't want to expose some of the ministers, I'll just expose myself. When the president started the Madanga Commission, we said, oh, another commission. Today, we are all asking the president to extend Madanga. People are watching Madanga. They can't stop watching Madanga because this president was criticized, but he stood by it. Now they say when I praise the president, Mackenzie is singing for his supper. What supper? I'm a giver of supper. I don't receive supper. I'm a person, when a person is doing right, this president has brought us all together. We were fighting as political parties. He's the glue of the GNU. So ladies and gentlemen, we are led. And I'm saying it, I don't need, what is the word you use, supper. But I showed you examples of a leader. He listened, he put me like this with a few ministers. He said, let us discuss illegal immigration. My friend Nyonso said, South Africans for all Africans. I said, Abahambe, the president listened to both of us. Today, action is being taken not because of Mackenzie, but because of the cabinet. So, President, people will criticize you. But I've learned one thing from you. You stand by your convictions. You stand by what is right. And I'm telling you, President, I will support you. Not for any other reason. Because I've seen the fruits of your tree for our people. Can you and me both welcome my president, your president, His Excellency, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa.
Amandla. Amandla. Forward with the youth of our country, forward. Forward with the youth of our country, forward. Amandla. Let us be seated, please. Program directors, Minister for Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities, Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga, and Ntate Maile, the MEC in our government here in the province of Gauteng, Minister of Arts, Sports, Arts and Culture, Minister Gayton McKenzie, Acting Premier of our province, Mayor Faith Mazibuko, the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, Councillor Dada Morero, as well as the Deputy Mayor of Johannesburg, ministers who are here present and deputy ministers, members of parliament, members of the provincial legislatures, and councillors of our local government, the chairperson of the board of the National Youth Development Agency, and co-founder and CEO of One Young World, Ms. Kate Robinson, Managing Director of One Young World, Ms. Ella Robinson McKay, and representatives of youth formations, not only from our country, from a number of other countries who have come here to join us, ambassadors from various countries, both here on our continent and outside our continent. We thank you for honoring this day when we commemorate the struggle of young people. Your Majesty, the Reign Queen of our nation, Masala Nabo, we thank you for being here as well, and other traditional leaders who are here present, and also greetings to the youth of 1976 who have also come forward to be part of this commemoration, and the young people of our country, the young people of our beloved nation. Sanbonani, Dumelang, Abusheni, Molweni, Masiari, Intlekani, Lochani. Thank you very much to all of you for being here. Today is a very special day to many people around our country, but more especially to those who were present and who are still here amongst us on June 16, 1976. 50 years ago, not far from where we stand today, thousands of young people marched carrying nothing but their school books, their school bags, and the courage that they had in their hearts and the dreams that they had. These young people faced bullets with bare hands. They confronted injustice with extraordinary bravery. And through their sacrifice, they changed the course of our country's history. On June the 16th, the children of Soweto walked out of their classrooms and into history. They were told that they could not learn in their own languages, in their own country, and on equal terms. They refused that limit, and many of them paid for that refusal with their lives. We gather here to mark 50 years since the uprising of South Africa's young people on the June 16, 1976. Half a century later, we remember, we commemorate, and we honor a generation of young people whose courage, whose ability to organize themselves, and whose hunger for freedom and knowledge marked a turning point in the struggle against apartheid. The question before us today is not whether young people have the courage to change the trajectory and the future of South Africa. The youth of 1976 answered that question. The question before us is whether South Africa is doing enough to create opportunities worthy of the sacrifice that was made by the young people of 1976. Speaking at the 20th anniversary of the uprising, President Nelson Mandela addressed the youth of our country, and he said, "On that fateful day, 20 years ago, you jolted this nation from its slumber and rejected the slave education that the apartheid regime had implemented." He continued to say, "You changed the course of history and accelerated the downfall of the apartheid system." Close quotes. It was here that thousands of learners who had left their classrooms to protest against the imposition of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction in their schools. But their protest was about more than just the Afrikaans language. It was a rejection of the Bantu education system, which was designed to limit the aspirations of black children and prepare them for lives of servitude. The then leaders of the apartheid government said, "We must teach black children enough so that they can be drawers of water and just cut wood." It was a protest against the injustice of impoverishment, a protest against denigration and daily hardship that had been imposed on the black child by the cruel system of apartheid. From the streets of this township, Soweto, issued a powerful cry for justice, for dignity, and for equality. The struggle of the young people did not begin with the class of 1976. They knew that they stood on the shoulders of earlier generations. Leaders such as Anton Lembede, Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo, Albertina Sisulu, Lillian Ngoyi, and Robert Sobukwe, and many others, who moved the liberation struggle towards mass mobilization and direct action. They got their inspiration from those leaders who had preceded them, but leaders who during their lifetime had turned the tide of our struggle. They were shaped too by a wider current of liberation, a wider current of liberation that was flowing across the continent. The struggles of the people of Ghana, of Algeria, of Mozambique, of Angola, and the Congo had showed that colonialism could be defeated. Across the diaspora, the civil rights and black power movements affirmed the dignity of black people, even in the United States of America. By the early 1970s, the black consciousness movement was teaching a new generation to reject notions of inferiority, to recover their dignity, to reclaim their identity, and to forge their own future. By the time the learners of 1976 took to the streets, they were part of a powerful river of youth resistance. Many students were killed in the streets of Soweto and a number of other townships. Many young people were injured. They were detained and they were forced into exile. The image of Mbuyisa Makubu carrying Hector Peterson in his arms with his sister Antoinette Sithole running alongside conveyed to the world the brutality of apartheid. Their contribution belongs in the center of our national memory. The young people of 1976 did not stand alone. They were supported by their parents, their teachers, by health workers, by religious leaders, by business leaders in their townships, and many other community structures. They were supported by leaders such as Mama Albertina Sisulu, Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, the Black Parents Association, and the Soweto Committee of 10. We remember in particular the mothers who searched for their children, the mothers who mourned, and the women who expressed the pain of the nation when apartheid expected them to be silent. The uprising in Soweto did not just remain there. It spread to a number of other townships, to Alexandra, to Tembisa, to Kwatema, and later to Langa, Guguletu, and Nyanga, and various other townships across the country, giving new momentum to the struggle against apartheid. The cries of these young people reverberated across the world, galvanizing the international community to condemn and isolate apartheid South Africa. This year, Youth Day takes place at the intersection of important milestones of our freedom. In addition to the 50th anniversary of the Soweto uprising, we also mark 70 years since the Women's March of 1956, when 20,000 women, the mothers of our nation, marched on the Union buildings and stood in silence for 30 minutes, not moving, not speaking, expressing their rejection of the instruction that they should carry passes. But they were doing much more than that. They were rejecting the system of apartheid. And through their action, they galvanized the struggle against apartheid. We also commemorate the adoption of our Constitution in 1976, 30 years of constitutional democracy in our country. Together, these milestones remind us that freedom was built across generations by the women who resisted the past laws, by the young people who rose against Bantu education, and by a constitution that reflects the views and the aspirations of all the people of South Africa. Now, as we mark the 50th anniversary of the Soweto uprising, we are called upon to ensure that freedom lives in every generation and to reflect honestly on the work that must still be done so that freedom is felt in the lives of every young person today. The South Africa of today is not the South Africa of 1976. We are no longer governed by laws that decide what a black child may learn, where they may live, what work they may do, and what future they may imagine. That change had not come by chance. It was won through struggle, protracted resistance by our people, but it is also protected through our Constitution and advanced through the policies and programs of our democratic government. The youth of 1976 were not the last generation to organize for change. We remember young freedom fighters such as Solomon Mahlangu, the Craddock Four, and also Nokuthula Simelane, and the youth and the student formations that helped to make apartheid ungovernable. In the democratic era, that same spirit continued through the young people advocating for roads must fall and fees must fall movements. And because of these generations of struggle, South Africa has changed fundamentally. The Constitution of our country guarantees the right to basic education. This right did not exist under apartheid. Through legislation such as the South African Schools Act and the Higher Education Act, we dismantled the legal architecture of apartheid education and began building a system founded on equality, access, and redress. Since 1994, access to schooling has been significantly expanded. Today, we have schools where children and their families no longer have to pay fees to go to school, particularly to children from poor households. Under apartheid, every household that took a child to school had to pay big fees to have their children go to school. Today, that has been eliminated. The school nutrition program in our country feeds more than 9 million learners every day of the week. And this does not happen in many other countries that I know of. Only here in South Africa, because of the struggles that were waged by the youth of 1976. And today, therefore, we thank those young people for standing up for the rights that our young learners now enjoy today. So therefore, the youth of 76 must be applauded and recognized for their struggles. Last year, South Africa recorded the highest matric pass rate in our country's history, with more than 2/3 of bachelor passes coming from schools in disadvantaged communities, schools in our townships, schools in our rural areas have demonstrated that, yes, when given the opportunity, they too can raise their education level to a much higher status. We have opened the doors of post-school education and training. This year, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, approved funding for more than 1 million students at universities and colleges. This is unprecedented and a very historic moment in assisting young people in our country to get their education. Today, our country produces 4 times the number of African graduates than it did in 1994. These are doctors, they're learners, They are engineers, they are nurses, they are scientists, they are entrepreneurs, and they are leaders of our country in many fields and endeavors. Young people are taking their place also in public leadership. Today, more than 80 members of our National Assembly are aged 40 or younger. And today we even have a 22-year-old member of parliament, and that in itself is a great advancement for our democracy. These gains show that democracy has opened doors that apartheid had deliberately closed. And these are some of the gains that the youth of 1976 was fighting for. But opening doors is not enough. The task now is to ensure that those doors that have been opened do lead to skills, to employment, to enterprise ownership, and to dignity. Yes, we agree with the NYDA that much more still needs to be done. And yes, my young sister, we have heard your demands. Your demands are not only 4, they are plentiful. And I have said, having had those 4 direct demands today, I want all the ministers, the deputy ministers, the premiers who are here present, the mayors, the councillors, yes, to craft solutions to the demands that we have made. Those that are responsible must come up with those solutions, yes, and bring them forward to me so that we can respond to you. But I don't know whether we can respond to the demand that young men want enough money to take their girlfriends out to lunch or to dinner. That one I leave to you. However, we must be honest about the challenges before us. More than 4.7 million young people are unemployed in our country. We are not alone as South Africa carrying the burden of unemployment. Many other countries around the world, especially on our continent, are carrying the same burden of the unemployment of young people. The youth unemployment rate stands at 46%, which is totally unacceptable. Behind every statistic is a young person who wants to work, who wants to contribute, and who wants to build a future, and who wants dignity. It is the graduate who sends out, yes, dozens of applications and receives no reply. It is the young entrepreneur with an idea but no access to capital. It is the skilled artisan who cannot find an opportunity to demonstrate their own talents. We cannot accept this as normal. Young people are among the most affected by violent crime and theft. These are some of the greatest threats to our country's prosperity and to social stability in our country. Faced with these challenges, there are some who blame the problems of unemployment and crime and poor service delivery on foreign nationals. Even as we recognize the challenge of illegal immigration, of having undocumented migrants in our country, which we are taking decisive action to address, our problems are in the main our own problems, and which we have a responsibility to fix ourselves, working together We recognize that many communities are frustrated by crime, unemployment, and the pressure on public services. Now, these frustrations are real, and we can never dismiss them. I addressed the nation the other day, and I acknowledged that these are the cries and these are the challenges that our people are experiencing. But we must also be honest about the causes of these challenges. The roots of these challenges lie in primarily the inequality that we have inherited from our past. Yes, many say we should stop blaming our past, but it is our past that continues to cast a shadow on the future that our people aspire to. Yes, slow economic growth is also a cause of these challenges, as I said, and also the weaknesses in service delivery are also causes of the challenges that we are going through. Meeting someone who was an ambassador in the United States, who was a British citizen, he said to me, he had lived in the United States for many, many years, and in a number of other countries, also on the African continent, and he said he could see that the past that had been imposed on black people who became slaves in the United States and the Caribbean islands, yes, and the colonialism that had been imposed on many people on our African continent continues to be a legacy that casts that shadow on the future that we all aspire to. And so therefore, the past is something that we have to deal with. We have to address. We can never say that that past does not exist. And it is this that we are dealing with. And addressing these challenges does require practical solutions, not the scapegoating of vulnerable people. The challenges facing young people are grave, and their concerns are real. And we heard them earlier from the chairman of the National Youth Development Agency. That is why our response to these challenges must be both comprehensive and urgent. In this regard, our government is acting on a number of fronts, but principally on 3 fronts. First, we are expanding public employment, youth service, and workplace experience. More than 5.7 million young people are now registered on the SA Youth Mobi platform. Of these, more than 2 million young people have gained access to earning opportunities as young people flight their own CVs and details. On that platform, employers across our country are able to see what their capabilities are. And as we speak today, more than 2 million of them have been able to access earning opportunities that are advancing their lives. And this platform, having been initiated by government, together with a number of other institutions, is working for young people. The Presidential Employment Stimulus has created work and livelihood opportunities for more than 2.5 million unemployed South Africans. Of these, 82% were young people and 66% were women. Now, that is important, and this talks to the development that is taking place. through the pilot phase of the Job Boost Outcomes Fund, we've got more than 9,000 young people who have been enrolled and more than 7,000 successfully placed in employment. And this is a jobs fund that is continuing to gather momentum and will in the end be getting young people to get employment opportunities. This shows the potential of training that is linked to employment opportunities. The revitalized National Youth Service has placed more than 130,000 young people in paid service opportunities to date, with more than 100,000 community service youth employment opportunities. This is progress. We are moving forward. Now, these interventions give young people a foothold in the world of work, but they are not the final destination. That is why our overarching priority at the moment is to grow an inclusive economy that creates sustainable jobs at scale. Second, we are reshaping the skills system so that qualifications that young people get should lead more directly to work and experience. We are moving away from training for training's sake. We are moving away from training to give young people certificates. We want them to get the certificate and to work at the same time. That is the important destination that we are going to. That is why we are strengthening the TVET college system as engines of occupational skills and linking colleges, employers, and our seaters to the needs of local economies. This linkage is going to produce great results. We have seen it work in other countries. We've seen it work in countries that have excelled in the manufacturing sector, countries that have excelled in entrepreneurship. Skills are not formed in the classrooms alone. They are formed in the workplace, in industries, communities, and enterprises. That is the destination we are headed in. And we are making all efforts to get cooperation from all key stakeholders, the private sector, as well as all other institutions and stakeholders. Third, we are opening the productive economy to young people. Over the next 3 years, the state is investing 1 trillion rand in infrastructure, which is unprecedented in the history of our country, where we are going to be improving the infrastructure of our country by leaps and bounds. We are building and maintaining the roads in our country, building our dams, our schools, our hospitals, our clinics, our electricity lines, railway lines, and port infrastructure. This investment will create apprenticeships, artisan development, skills transfer, enterprise development for young people. Our growth strategy is essentially focused on sectors that create jobs at scale, in the manufacturing sector, in the mining sector, in the digital infrastructure, in agriculture, in the green industrialization, in energy, in logistics, in critical minerals, in tourism, and the creative economy. Young people must be an integral part of all these industries. And yes, as I go around visiting many industries, as I go around visiting many factories, I'm always impressed by finding young people at the head of a number of those industries, where in the past you would just find old white people operating to the exclusion of women, both black and white, to the exclusion of young people. Today, you find that young people, both men and women, are leading in those type of manufacturing and industrial settings. Now, we want young people to be trained for these industries, to work in them, to build businesses in those industries, and to own a part of them. The small business portfolio will provide support to 1 million micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises over this term of government. And that in itself is a phenomenal advance that we must all welcome, that young people are now being put in the forefront of entrepreneurship. The Public Procurement Act gives us also the opportunity to use the buying power of the state to support enterprises that are owned by young people, that are owned by women, that are owned by persons with disabilities. These preferences are going to allow us to develop the skill base of young people, empower the women of our country, and give great opportunities to people with disabilities. Unemployment must be seen as a societal problem. As correctly said earlier, it is not the problem of government alone. Yes, this is a problem that keeps me awake at night. This keeps my ministers awake. It is an overriding problem for all of us. But all stakeholders in our country must work together to provide sustainable solutions to reduce unemployment, especially among young people. Government has a responsibility and to continuously take action to address this problem. However, the private sector also has a responsibility to also address the challenge of unemployment. I want to speak directly to the private sector today and to say to every business owner, every manager, every person who holds in their hands the power to hire, and say the young person in front of you does not lack ability. They lack only one thing, the chance to prove themselves that they are capable. That is what they lack. So the young people of our country are saying, give us an opportunity. Give us an opportunity to demonstrate what we are capable of. I'm asking the private sector to open the doors of employment. The government has opened the doors of learning. Today, the doors of learning are open, and we say to the private sector, who is the biggest employer in any economy, and our economy as well, we say, open your doors to the employment of young people. Hire young people for potential, not for experience. And that is why we're saying we must do away with this requirement for experience. We must hire young people and give them a chance to get into the world of employment. And I say to the private sector, government will not ask you to carry that risk alone. Through the employment tax incentive, we already share the cost of bringing young people into their first job. We will strengthen that support because the first job is the hardest one to get and the most important in the lives of young people. We must change how we prepare young people for their beginning. We therefore call upon employers to hire a young person and not to have to require them to have experience before you hire them. Bring them in and give them the experience. Bring them in and give them the jobs. As the country prepares for the next local government elections, we must place young people at the center of building municipalities that work. Young people must not only be councillors, they must be the engineers in our local government. They must be the planners, the town planners and the city planners. They must be the artisans who work in our local government. They must be water technicians, electricians, data specialists, and entrepreneurs who build sustainable towns, cities, and villages. Our progress as a nation must be measured on whether young people are moving from school to skills, from skills to work, and from enterprise support to markets, to scale, and to ownership. This is how we honor the youth of 1976 by building a South Africa in which every young person has a fair chance to learn, to work, to earn, to serve, to build, to create, to own, and to live with dignity. That is the South Africa that the youth of 1976 sacrificed their lives for. Across South Africa, there are 37 million young people under the age of 35. This is our country's strongest strength. The youthfulness of our population provides our country with a dynamism, an innovativeness, and potential productivity that few other countries outside our continent can match. This generation must take its place in every part of national life, in the economy, in public institutions, in our communities, in innovation, in culture, and in the work of building and strengthening our democracy. Young people of 1976 remind us that freedom is not protected by memory alone. It is protected by active citizenship, by organization, by discipline, by service, and by responsibility. Today's generation has tools that the youth of 1976 did not have. They have technology, they have information, and platforms that can connect communities, expose injustice, and build enterprises. Technology must be matched by purpose, organization, and commitment to the good of our country. As we look to the future, young people must be at the center of democratic participation. They must register to vote. They must vote in the elections of their country so as to determine the future of this beautiful country that we have. They must engage in municipalities, and they must hold public representatives accountable. Democracy is not only what happens in parliament and in the legislatures of our provinces or in the councils of our municipalities. It is also built in our schools, in our university campuses, in our college precincts, in our churches, in our sports fields, in community halls, and the streets and the homes of our country. President Nelson Mandela said at the birth of our democracy that the time to build is upon us. This is the responsibility of our lifetime to ensure that young people have the opportunity, the support and confidence to build their own lives and to shape the future of our country. Let us honor the youth of 1976, not only by remembering their courage, their sacrifice, but by continuing the work for which they sacrificed so much. Let us build a South Africa in which freedom lives in every generation going forward. 50 years ago, the youth of 1976 marched for the right to learn. They faced down bullets, armed with nothing but the conviction that their minds mattered. Today's generation inherits that courage, but the battle has changed. The youth of 1976 fought exclusion. They fought oppression. Ours must fight unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Theirs was the struggle to enter the classroom. Ours is the struggle to ensure that what begins in the classroom does not end in the unemployment queues. Just as they refuse the limits imposed upon them, we too must refuse a future of diminished possibilities. So therefore, we are called upon to build and to craft a South Africa where every young person can realize their potential. So we must build a future. We must build a South Africa in which freedom lives continuously in the hearts of all South Africans. So let us honor the youth of 1976, not only in words, but in deeds. And that is why the demands that have been put forward must be actualized and they must be addressed. So let us build a South Africa where every young person can, as we implement the aspirations of our young people, can realize their potential, where opportunity is not the privilege of a few, but the birthright of all. A South Africa in which freedom lives anew in every generation. This is what the youth of 1976 rose and marched for. And this is what they sacrificed for. Let us help to realize the dreams that they had. And I have great confidence that we can fulfill those dreams, working together, all of us pulling in the same direction, building a South Africa that we can all be proud of. So on this day, as we commemorate 50 years of the uprising of young people in our country who helped to change the course of the history of our country and the future of our country, let us all say, forward to the young people of South Africa, forward. Forward to the young people of South Africa, forward. Amandla. Ngiyabonga. Thank you very much.
Viva President Ramaphosa, viva! Long life, President Ramaphosa, long life! Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the comprehensive and inspiring address which deals with the grievances of our youth. Because the voice of the youth is very important. We must listen to that voice. Because any country that does not value its youth, it does not deserve its future. So the President has responded, Dr. the chairperson of the NYDA, the President has responded. And I'm sure young people are looking forward to that comprehensive response which will come from the different levels of government. At this point, I would like to call colleagues who have been designated to extinguish the flame. May you please come forward so that you can extinguish the flame and we can be able to call the mayor afterwards. Long live the youth of South Africa, long live. Long live the youth of South Africa, long live. We are the future. We are the future. No one can stop us. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child. Say after me. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child. Abasondeli, Mayor, let's not delay the proceedings. Please come and do your vote of thanks. Thanks.
Thank you, Program Director, MEC Lebogang Maile. Probably the youth do not know a village. They probably know a township. Please allow me to rise on already established protocols. The President Ramaphosa, allow me to rise on already established protocols. 300 years of systematic oppression, 46 years of institutionalized apartheid, 30 years of the democratic constitution, and 50 years of remembering the class of 1976. We have a lot to be thankful about. The youth of 1976 reminded us that we have the power to stand up, solve our problems, and define the future we want to see. For this, we must be thankful. Every household in Soweto has a veteran who lived and experienced this day. Their courage and wisdom lives within us. They too have multiplied. Program Director, we must thank the class of 2026. And if you look around you, they have come today to remember this day. This youth is very important to the residents of Johannesburg. Last year, they told us about the Johannesburg they want to see. We listened, and today they're experiencing a city they defined. A lot more still needs to be done, and we thank them for their patience and understanding. Mr. President, your leadership continues to inspire us. Not so long, we were too young ourselves. We made mistakes, but it is your guidance that reminded us why we are here. Today we are serving by your side. At no point did you give up on us. For this reason, we are grateful for your words of wisdom. Thank you for mapping the strategic direction for youth development. We heard you, and we shall implement. Watch the space. To the provincial and national leadership, as the people of Johannesburg, we stand in full support of the national and provincial leaders. Today, we have demonstrated the power of unity, collaboration, and making a difference. Your decisive leadership reminded us of all our challenges and achievements. All of this you do on the shoulders of Teobuho Tsietsi Mashinini. Hastings Ndlovu, and Hector Peterson. For this, we thank you. Let us continue building on this moment by using the district development model as our springboard for accelerated implementation in support for youth development in South Africa. Fellow councillors, we see you. Let us remain accountable to the youth of Johannesburg. We see you, they also see us, and thank you. Our work is clear. Now is the time to close ranks and deliver on the promised future. We have laid the foundation and the future remains bright. Young people have access to water, electricity, sanitation, transport, and internet in their cities. All they want is jobs. This request must be implemented. For every action we take, a job must emerge. Program Director, Johannesburg is the heartbeat of Africa. We exist because of the partnerships we have in place. For many years, we have walked this journey with the National Youth Development Agency and the June 16 Foundation. We must thank them for their commitment to this cause. Lastly, to all partners and stakeholders, we would like to thank you for your commitment and the love for the city of Johannesburg. This is your city, it is our city. Let us remain on this development path of growth and prosperity. Till we meet again, continue to make us proud. Fambani Ikorula.
Thank you very much. We are the future.